Hare Krishna. My name is Yashodamayi Devi Dasi, and before me here on this table is a total kit, language arts kit for the Spalding method for reading, writing, spelling, pronunciation. The reason that I'm here showing you this kit is that I'm not a representative trying to sell a product. Actually, for many years, I was teaching in the Vrindavan Gurukula. After that, I did tuitions privately and helped, as much as possible, parents who were homeschooling their children. Many times people would come to me and ask, could you recommend an effective system to help our Krishna conscious children? When I was in the Gurukula, I had joined in 1992, and at that time the headmistress, Chandrika Devi Dasi, who was is a Prabhupada disciple, had shared with us on the staff this system, the Spalding method of language arts. Chandrika Devi Dasi had fortunately met Spalding, Romalda Spalding, who was still alive at the time. She lived to be in her 90s, and she had met and studied under her in New York City. What had attracted Chandrika Mataji to this particular system was that it was particularly effective with English as a second language student. And because Chandrika Mataji had to come back to Vrindavan and establish the school again in Vrindavan, the Gurukula, she understood that many of the children would be either from India or from Nepal, or even other countries, and English would be their second language. So she was particularly attracted for that reason to the system. After she learned it, she realized that the system was actually brilliant. And when she came back to Vrindavan and she taught those of us on the staff this system, I particularly learned it from her, and I too realized that it was amazingly profound. It was not like an ordinary textbook system. It was scientific, it was based on research, it was deep, it was comprehensive, and it was economically feasible. So what I wanted to do was to show you the most recent upgraded version available. Again, I'm not marketing it, I'm not trying to say I'm getting any commission for doing it. I'm just saying that as a teacher and private tutor, and at this point in my life, working with many devoted parents who are homeschooling their children, I strongly recommend this system. And now it has come out in a complete package. When I was in the school, many of these materials were not so evolved, or if we had them at all, we would have to get them separately. So now I have just been aware of a kit that's now including everything in one package. So what is the essence, first of all, is the book. The book is called, if you notice, The Writing Road to Reading. And many people may not understand this particular title. But the understanding of this title is that Spalding engages 4 senses in learning the system: hearing, seeing, saying, and finally writing. And by this multisensory method, children at a very early age, because of the scientific and research-based program, learn to read at an early age, comprehend, spell precisely, write precisely, read with understanding, using mental actions, and they even learn the process writing approach to creative writing. Again, it's an amazing system. Children are able to learn to read at least 2 grades above average level, and there are, for many, many years, millions of children have learned to read effectively, speak well, pronounce well, write well, read with depth and appreciation because of the scientific basis of this system. So let's go over quickly what are some of the items we see before us. The main book is called The Writing Road to Reading. This book gives the lessons for spelling, reading, writing, as well as a 2,000-word spelling list, which is scientifically designed to use high-frequency words. There are phonograms cards. The system includes, the spelling lesson includes 70 phonograms, which, if learned, enable a child to decode very quickly and very easily large numbers of words. Comparatively, a first grader with the traditional CSAY method can decode 1,500 words, but with the aid of the phonogram system as well as the spelling program, a first grader can decode 24,000 words. Because English is a language in which half of the words are not spelled the way they sound, the Spalding method of phonograms plus the marking system for the spelling lesson enable the child to have a chance of from 80 to 93% success in spelling. Now, books are available that I wasn't available here. They have a kindergarten teacher's guide. This is new. I never had this in my experience. I see they're upgrading every year. The basic program still is unchanged, and the economy is still there. Most systems require many costly books that don't necessarily produce the results. This system, the child is only required to have a pencil, notebooks, and his brain. All of the information comes from the teacher, from the spelling list, and from engaging integrated study with literature and reading quality literature books, as well as the writing process. Here, right in front of me, a way to test the reading level of a child is called the McCall-Krabs testing system. It starts with primary level and goes through books A, B, C, D, and E. And these books give reading lessons with questions at the end, and the scores enable the instructor to assess the reading level of the child. The phonograms cards are accompanied by a CD which presents the sounds for the 70 phonograms. And there's a new item here. Again, I haven't had an opportunity to research this much. It's called the Spalding Word Builder, and it's also accompanied by a CD. This again is for me a new item. Again, the traditional materials required are smaller notebook for the child with a primary notebook, and then on the secondary level there's a secondary notebook, a simple pencil, hexagonally shaped. Even the proper way to hold a pencil, how to sit, how to hold paper are all very precisely described, and the reason for the precision. She gives sample note paper there for practice. And then on the final row here you see some posters, and you'll see the three words informative narrative and informative narrative. Children at the very beginning of their studies from age 5 on up are taught the major breakdowns of all writing. Writing is either an informative, or it's a narrative, or it's a combination of the two, informative, narrative. And children are given little model cards by which they can create their own writing. Reading is understood usually by most people to be decoding, but actually reading in the Spalding system is a very deep thing. It has two major aspects. It has assessing literature for its quality, the 5 features of what is considered to be good literature. And here you see the 5 features of what they call mental actions. Children are taught thinking skills when they read, not just decoding. They're taught to monitor their comprehension. They're taught to connect information with prior knowledge. They're taught to predict information with future information that might be attained. They're taught to reformat information, take material from one content and put it into another context. And finally, and most importantly, they're taught to summarize information, a very important skill. So basically, again, I want to take an opportunity personally to look over the new additions to this, and I'm strongly again recommending that people who are either teaching English as a second language or who are working with children who have some kind of learning disability, such as dyslexia or whatever there are many kinds of learning disabilities. People who are faced with homeschooling their children, they don't wish, particularly as devotee families, to put their children in the association of other children in schools, especially now as schools are becoming less and less, what shall I say, the emphasis is more on the scientific explanation of life and the world. They wish to keep a spiritual environment and have their children grow up with spiritual literature. So this book I consider this system is, we call it now on our website, we recommend it because it's the rapid road to reading Prabhupada's books. I can give a personal example. I tutored my first student who was 3 years old and 4 months, and she was with me for perhaps 4 months. She was from a very good family, Indian-bodied family, but they lived between England and Vrindavan. And I had her for only 4 months using the Spalding method. And by 4 months, 3 years, 8 months, she was already decoding words she would see in restaurants or on signs. The parents kept up the system. When I use the system, I always train the parent. I never just work with one child. I train the parents how to teach the system. And the family kept up the system, returned to India when the child was 5, enrolled her in Gurgaon in a very good new international school. At 5, she was tested at entry, and her reading level was upper 5th grade. So I can only say that Spalding, if properly taught, and again, it takes a little bit of endeavor, but if properly taught, produces miraculous results. And the whole staff was amazed that this 5-year-old at the beginning of the school year, kindergarten year, first year, was reading upper 5th grade. Not all children may necessarily attain that same level, but given good instruction, following the system very carefully, not trying to adulterate it. Spalding says one should be creative within the system, not creative with it. In other words, try to creatively alter it. Creativity comes in how I can present this system more quickly, more effectively, more interestingly, because it's actually just like Krishna consciousness. We don't try to adulterate it. We actually try to follow it as carefully as we can, and of course allow for individuality. So again, my final comment is for those either classroom teachers in Krishna consciousness who are finding perhaps other systems aren't really as effective as they hope them to be, or for families who wish to keep their children at home but give them a good solid foundation in language which will enable them to read and study any subject matter. I heartily encourage them to research this program, perhaps try it. We're putting more and more little video clips on our website, Mani Mandala, of children now studying under their parents. They're 3 years old, they're 3.5, and they're finding their children are already starting to decode because of the scientific basis of this process. So again, for those of you who are in such a situation, we hope you will examine it. And now the kit is very available, and even it comes in a very handy little school bag. It's called Spalding International. So again, thank you so much. Hare Krishna.